Welcome to Movie Vault. Today we're diving into the world of mystery, government conspiracies, supernatural forces, and pure 80s nostalgia with a full recap of Stranger Things Season 1. This is where it all began. The small town of Hawkins, Indiana, the secretive Hawkins National Laboratory, and a group of kids who stumble upon something far beyond their imagination. From the disappearance of Will Byers to the arrival of Eleven and the terrifying Demogorgon, Season 1 set the foundation for one of Netflix's biggest hit series. So grab your waffles, turn on your Christmas lights, and get ready, because this is the ultimate recap of Stranger Things Season 1. Episode 1, The Vanishing of Will Byers. The show kicks off on November 6, 1983, in the small town of Hawkins, Indiana. Four kids, Mike Wheeler, Lucas Sinclair, Dustin Henderson, and Will Byers, are enjoying a game of Dungeons & Dragons in Mike's basement. But as they head home, something terrifying happens. Will, riding his bike alone at night, hears strange noises and sees a dark humanoid figure in the woods. Panicked, he rushes home, only to find that something is in the house with him. He runs to the shed, grabs a shotgun, but before he can react, he vanishes into thin air. Meanwhile, we're introduced to Hawkins National Laboratory, a secretive government facility experimenting on paranormal and scientific anomalies. We see scientists running in terror as an unseen creature attacks one of them. On the other side of town, a mysterious young girl with a shaved head wanders into a local diner. She barely speaks but steals food, catching the attention of the owner, Benny Hammond, who gives her food and calls social services. But when a government agent arrives instead, Benny is shot and killed, and the girl escapes. Will's mother, Joyce Byers, reports her son missing, and Chief Jim Hopper begins an investigation. However, the local authorities don't take it seriously. At least, not yet. Episode 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street. Mike, Lucas, and Dustin search for Will in the woods, but instead find the mysterious girl. She refuses to speak much, but recognizes Will's name. Mike decides to bring her home, hiding her in his basement. The girl reveals her name, or at least a number, 11, tattooed on her wrist. Mike nicknames her L and discovers she has telekinetic powers, using them to lock a door when Dustin tries to peek at her changing. Meanwhile, Joyce receives a mysterious phone call filled with static and strange breathing, and she becomes convinced it's Will. That night, the lights in her home flicker, and she sees a shadowy figure pressing against the wall of her house from the inside. Hopper investigates Hawkins' lab, but is met with government lies. They claim no experiments or incidents have taken place, but Hopper isn't buying it. Mike's older sister, Nancy Wheeler, starts dating the popular and confident Steve Harrington, while her best friend, Barb, warns her about the relationship. As the boys grow closer to 11, she reveals a shocking truth. She recognizes a photo of Will and tells them that he is in great danger. Episode 3, Holly Jolly. Nancy and Barb attend Steve's party, where Barb reluctantly joins in, but when she sits alone by the pool, she hears something behind her. Moments later, she is snatched by an unseen monster and disappears. Joyce becomes more convinced that Will is communicating with her through the house's lights. She paints letters on the wall and strings up Christmas lights, creating a way for Will to spell words. He spells run. Moments later, the Demogorgon bursts through the wall and Joyce barely escapes. Meanwhile, the boys search for Will near a quarry and hear sirens. They rush to the scene and see that the police have found a body in the water. It's supposedly Will's body, and the town is devastated. However, Joyce refuses to believe it's really Will. She insists that her son is still alive, and she might just be right. Episode 4, The Body. Hopper grows suspicious of Hawkins' lab and begins investigating the so-called Will Byers body. He breaks into the morgue and discovers that the body is fake, stuffed with cotton. Meanwhile, Eleven uses her powers to help Mike communicate with Will through a ham radio. Will's voice comes through, confirming he's alive but trapped in a dark place. Nancy investigates Barb's disappearance and notices something strange in a photo taken by Jonathan Byers, a shadowy creature standing behind Barb by the pool. Joyce, determined to get Will back, refuses to leave her house, despite being seen as mentally unstable. Hopper, realizing that Hawkins' lab is covering something up, makes the bold decision to break into the facility. Episode 5: The Flea and the Acrobat. The kids learn about a parallel dimension called the Upside Down, an alternate version of their world where Will is trapped. Hopper infiltrates Hawkins' lab, but is knocked out by agents. He wakes up in his house, realizing he was drugged, but he now knows for certain that the lab is hiding something. Nancy and Jonathan hunt the monster and find a portal to the Upside Down in the woods. Nancy crawls through, but gets trapped. She sees the Demogorgon and barely escapes. Episodes 6 to 7: The Monster and the Bathtub. As the mystery unravels, Eleven remembers being experimented on at the lab. Barb is confirmed to be dead, her body found in the Upside Down. The gang tries to use a sensory deprivation tank to amplify Eleven's abilities so she can find Will. Eleven finally makes contact with Will through the tank, confirming he's still alive, but weak and freezing. Hopper and Joyce break into the Upside Down through Hawkins' lab, determined to bring Will back. Episode 8, The Upside Down, finale. The final showdown begins. Hopper and Joyce enter the Upside Down through the Hawkins lab gate, finding Will unconscious but barely breathing. They perform CPR and bring him back to life. At the school, the kids set a trap for the Demogorgon, using Eleven's powers to weaken it. She then obliterates the monster, using all her energy, before vanishing into thin air. Will is back. Hawkins' lab is exposed, but something is wrong. 1 month later, we see Will coughing up a small slug, proof that something dark is still inside him. And just like that, Season 1 ends with more questions than answers. Final thoughts: the beginning of something bigger. Stranger Things, Season 1 was a masterpiece of suspense, horror, and nostalgia. It introduced us to an unforgettable cast, a terrifying alternate dimension, and mysteries that would only deepen in future seasons. But what did you think? Was Season 1 your favorite? And what was your craziest moment? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into your favorite movies and TV shows. Until next time, stay strange. Welcome to Movie Vault. Today, we're diving back into the dark, mysterious, and supernatural world of Hawkins, Indiana, with a full recap of Stranger Things Season 2. After the shocking events of Season 1, you'd think things in Hawkins might finally return to normal, but that's far from the case. Will Byers is back, but he's not the same. The Mind Flayer looms over Hawkins, and new faces shake up the town as the Upside Down begins its terrifying invasion. Strap in, turn on your flashlights, and get ready, because this is the ultimate recap of Stranger Things Season 2. Episode 1, Mad Max. It's October 1984, nearly a year since Will Byers escaped the Upside Down. Life in Hawkins has somewhat returned to normal, but things are far from over. We're introduced to a new character, a girl with a tattooed 008 on her wrist, hinting that 11 isn't the only one with supernatural abilities. Meanwhile, at the arcade, the boys are shocked when their top gaming scores are beaten by a new challenger, Mad Max. Mad Max turns out to be Maxine Mayfield, a tough and skilled skater who's just moved to Hawkins with her hot-headed stepbrother, Billy Hargrove. Lucas and Dustin both develop a crush on her, but she's not interested in making friends yet. Meanwhile, Will starts having terrifying visions of the Upside Down, seeing a massive, shadowy creature with spider-like limbs. Joyce takes him to see the new town doctor, Dr. Owens, who dismisses his visions as post-traumatic stress, but we know better. Elsewhere, Hopper has a secret. He's hiding 11 in a cabin deep in the woods, protecting her from the government. 11 is desperate to reunite with Mike, but Hopper forbids it, warning her that people are still searching for her. And then, in the final moments of the episode, we see something horrifying. The Upside Down isn't gone. It's growing stronger. Episode 2, Trick or Treat Freak. It's Halloween night, and the gang is dressed up as the Ghostbusters. Mike, still grieving 11's disappearance, refuses to let anyone take her place in the group, frustrating Max. Meanwhile, Will suffers another terrifying episode where he finds himself trapped in the Upside Down, face to face with the Mind Flayer. He tells Mike what he saw, and Mike immediately believes him, suspecting that the Upside Down is still linked to Will. Elsewhere, Nancy is racked with guilt over Barb's disappearance, and she and Steve attend a Halloween party to try and forget. But after getting drunk, Nancy accidentally tells Steve she doesn't love him, setting the stage for a new romance later in the season. Dustin returns home after trick-or-treating and finds something strange in his trash can, a small slug-like creature. He decides to keep it, naming it D'Artagnan, or Dart for short. Little does he know, he's just brought home a creature from the Upside Down. Episode 384, The Pollywog and Will the Wise. Dustin secretly keeps Dart, believing it's just an exotic lizard. But as it grows, he realizes it looks eerily similar to the creature Brolil. Will coughed up at the end of season 1. Will continues experiencing episodes where he becomes trapped in the Upside Down, and the Mind Flayer's influence over him grows stronger. Joyce and Hopper begin to worry that Will is not just seeing the Upside Down, but becoming part of it. Meanwhile, 11, still hiding in Hopper's cabin, finds out that Hopper has been lying about Mike looking for her. Furious, she runs away and sets out on her own journey. Nancy and Jonathan investigate Hawkins' lab and leak information about Barb's death to a journalist. Then, in a shocking moment, Will tells Joyce, "He doesn't want me to tell you." It's clear, the Mind Flayer is possessing him. Episode 5-6, Dig Dug and the Speish. Hopper investigates the growing corruption of the Upside Down beneath Hawkins. He digs through the pumpkin patches and falls into a tunnel filled with strange, slimy vines. The vines trap him, and he barely escapes with his life. Meanwhile, 11 tracks down a woman named Terry Ives, her biological mother. Through her mother's memories, she learns that there was another girl at the lab, Kali, or 008. Dustin realizes Dart is a demodog, a baby demogorgon. He teams up with Steve Harrington, yes, Steve, to hunt it down. At Hawkins' lab, scientists discover that burning the tunnels hurts Will, proving that he and the Mind Flayer are connected. They decide to run tests on him, but in the process, the Mind Flayer tricks them into opening the gate. An army of demodogs attacks the lab. At episode 7-8, The Lost Sister and the Mind Flayer. 11 meets Kali, 008, a girl with the ability to create illusions. Kali trains 11 to use her full power, but 11 ultimately chooses to return to Hawkins, realizing her real home is with her friends. Back in Hawkins, all hell breaks loose. Demodogs storm the lab, killing most of the scientists, including Dr. Owens. Bob Newby, Joyce's new boyfriend, heroically helps the group escape, but dies in the process. Meanwhile, Will is fully possessed. The gang devises a plan to burn the Mind Flayer out of Will, forcing it to leave his body. As they heat the cabin, Will screams in agony, but it works. The Mind Flayer is expelled from his body. At the same time, 11 returns to Hawkins and reunites with Mike. She and Hopper head to the lab, where 11 uses her full strength to close the gate to the Upside Down. The Mind Flayer is sealed away, for now. Episode 9, The Gate. With the Mind Flayer gone, Hawkins returns to a fragile sense of normalcy. The kids attend the snowball dance, where Mike and 11 finally share a kiss. Lucas and Max grow closer, and even Dustin, despite rejection, gets some dance floor advice from Steve. But just when it seems like all is well, the final shot reveals the Mind Flayer looming over Hawkins in the Upside Down, waiting for its next move. The war isn't over yet. Final thoughts. Season 2 raises the stakes. Season 2 of Stranger Things expanded the world of the show, introduced new and terrifying threats, and gave us incredible character development. What was your favorite moment of Season 2? Was the Mind Flayer scarier than the Demogorgon? And how do you think 11's powers will evolve? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into your favorite movies and TV shows. Until next time, stay strange. Welcome to Movie Vault. Today, we're heading back to Hawkins, Indiana for another deep dive into the strange and supernatural world of Stranger Things. This time, we're tackling Season 3, a season filled with bigger stakes, new threats, and explosive action. Summer has arrived, but just because school is out doesn't mean the dangers of the Upside Down are gone. In fact, Things are about to get a whole lot worse. A secret Russian conspiracy, a terrifying new creature, and the return of the Mind Flayer. It's all here in Stranger Things Season 3. So grab your egos, turn up your 80s playlist, and let's break it all down. Episode 1, Susie, Do You Copy? It's June 1985, and Hawkins has changed. The brand new Starcourt Mall is the town's biggest attraction, drawing people away from small businesses, including Joyce Byers' Radio Shack-style store. But while the town is focused on shopping, something far more sinister is happening below the surface. In Russia, scientists are working to reopen the gate to the Upside Down. After a failed experiment, the Russians set their sights on Hawkins, where a portal might still be active. Meanwhile, in Hawkins, romance is in the air. Mike and Eleven are in full-on teen love mode, spending nearly every second together, much to the frustration of Hopper, who is struggling with his role as Eleven's adoptive father. Lucas and Max are also a couple, while Dustin returns from science camp claiming to have a mysterious new girlfriend named Susie. But when he tries to reach her over his new radio tower, there's no response. Elsewhere, something strange is happening to rats around town. They begin acting erratic, gathering in abandoned warehouses, before suddenly exploding into goo. That goo begins merging together, forming something terrifying. And finally, we check in on Billy Hargrove, who works as a lifeguard at the community pool. One night, while driving, he's attacked by something and dragged into an abandoned steel mill, the birthplace of a horrifying new creature. Episode 2, The Mall Rats. Hopper, fed up with Mike and Eleven's relationship, threatens Mike to back off, causing a rift between the young couple. Meanwhile, Joyce notices that her magnets are mysteriously losing their power, leading her to suspect something strange is happening again. Steve Harrington, now working at Scoops Ahoy in the mall alongside new character Robin Buckley, is having a rough summer. But things take a turn when Dustin tells them he intercepted a coded Russian transmission. Meanwhile, Billy wakes up in the steel mill, confused and terrified. He sees himself, a dark and twisted reflection, and hears a chilling message: take him to the source. He's no longer in control. The Mind Flayer is back, and Billy is its new host. Episode 3 to 4, The Case of Billy Hargrove and the Sauna Test. Nancy and Jonathan, now interning at the Hawkins Post, investigate the case of diseased rats, discovering that they are connected to the same goo that overtook Billy. Eleven uses her psychic powers to spy on Billy and sees something terrifying. He has kidnapped another lifeguard, Heather, and brought her to the steel mill, where the Mind Flayer is turning people into its army. Meanwhile, Hopper and Joyce investigate strange energy readings, which lead them to Mayor Klein, who they discover is working with the Russians. At the mall, Steve, Dustin, Robin, and Luca's little sister, Erica Sinclair, who steals every scene she's in, manage to sneak into a secret Russian base beneath Starcourt Mall. Meanwhile, the kids test their theory that Billy is possessed. They lure him into the community pool's sauna, forcing the Mind Flayer to reveal itself inside him. Billy nearly escapes, but before he does, he gives Eleven a message. We're going to end you, and when you let us in, you are going to lose. Episode 5-6, The Flayed and E Pluribus Unum. Nancy and Jonathan's investigation leads them to discover that many Hawkins residents have already been possessed by the Mind Flayer, including their old boss. At the mall, Dustin and the Scoops Ahoy gang discover a massive Russian facility underneath Hawkins. The facility is working on reopening the gate to the Upside Down, which would allow the Mind Flayer to fully return. Meanwhile, Eleven, Mike, and the gang track down the missing people in Hawkins and realize the Mind Flayer is using them to grow stronger. When Eleven tries to use her powers to locate the monster, she sees a horrifying vision of its true form. It's a massive, fleshy, spider-like creature, far larger than the Demogorgon. As the monster grows, it begins its final attack on Hawkins. Episode 7-8, The Bite and the Battle of Starcourt. The gang takes refuge in Hopper's cabin, but the Mind Flayer attacks, trying to kill Eleven. In a desperate battle, Eleven is bitten and severely wounded. Meanwhile, Hopper, Joyce, and Murray Bauman infiltrate the Russian base, planning to destroy the machine keeping the gate open. Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Erica escape from the base and reunite with the group at Starcourt Mall, where the final battle begins. The Mind Flayer arrives, intent on killing Eleven, but she fights back, though she realizes she has lost her powers. Just when all hope seems lost, Billy, despite being controlled by the monster, breaks free and sacrifices himself to save Eleven. Inside the Russian base, Hopper and Joyce reach the machine powering the portal. But when things go wrong, Hopper is trapped inside the blast zone. With no other choice, Joyce turns the key, shutting the gate and seemingly killing Hopper. The Mind Flayer collapses and dies, and Hawkins is saved, but at a heavy cost. The heartbreaking ending and post-credit scene. 3 months later, Hawkins is forever changed. The Byers family, devastated by everything that's happened, leaves town, taking Eleven with them. Mike and Eleven share an emotional goodbye, promising to reunite. But the biggest shock comes in the post-credits scene. In a Russian prison, guards feed a prisoner to a Demogorgon. Before they do, one guard mentions, "Not the American." Hopper might still be alive. Final thoughts. Season 3's explosive action and emotional weight. Stranger Things. Season 3 raised the stakes like never before. The Mind Flayer returned, Eleven lost her powers, Billy sacrificed himself, and Hopper was presumed dead. But the war isn't over. With Hopper possibly alive and the Russians in control of a Demogorgon, things are only going to get more dangerous from here. What was your favorite moment from Stranger Things Season 3? And where do you think the story will go next? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into your favorite movies and TV shows. Until next time, stay strange.